Hello everyone, welcome back to the Up the Guts podcast. Joining you always is your host Tricky, my co-host Connor, and we are joined by a special guest, former Frankston VFL captain, Josh Newman. How are you, Josh?
Thanks, fellas. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, good. Thanks for coming in. Holty was very excited to be here, but unfortunately he couldn't make it. I believe Tricky has a message to play from the great man, but Tricky's been banging on this for a couple of weeks. How excited he is to have you on here.
Very good. Well, it's I've been pretty busy too, so it's good to finally get here and get it done.
So obviously, how's your day been so far today? Obviously, you're a school teacher.
Yeah, it's been good. It's just sort of I've been pretty busy the last sort of few weeks. I've got year 11 and 12 students, so been sort of finishing them all off, and had a big sort of charity run on the weekend that I was a big part of, sort of planning and organising. And
was that the mountain run or whatever it was?
No, it's called Run for Rossi. So it's for a mate of mine who's battling M&D at the moment. And, it's to raise funds for M&D, and so that was a lot of planning involved with that event, as well as finishing my students up. But it all pretty much finished all the students off on Monday and had the event on the weekend. So things are starting to quieten down now, which is
beautiful. Oh, it's coming to the end of the year, isn't it?
Yeah.
So did the run go well?
Yeah, it went really well. We raised over $100,000.
That's amazing.
Which was pretty cool, and had about 400 people down at the George Knott Reserve in Collingwood, which is an AS track, and had lots of sort of different running events and some live music and food and all that. It was
beautiful. That sounds good. Why weren't you there, Trick?
Why wasn't I there? I would have been hungover. That would be one reason. Would have been very hungover.
Yeah, there was a few hungover. That's the issue with Sunday running
Sunday
event.
fun rate.
Yeah.
Why weren't you there? Not.
Oh, mate, you know me. I don't run for anything anymore. I was too busy. Probably had a baby show on Sunday.
Oh, no. Don't start this again. Never again?
Never again.
Never again. Now, obviously, we mentioned Holty is not here. He would have loved to be here, but we've got a message from the great man. It is very explicit.
It's pretty funny.
But it's pretty funny.
When did he send it? About 11 o'clock this morning?
Yeah.
Yeah, hilarious.
So we'll play it. Hopefully this comes through fine.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Today's been fucking ridiculous. Like, I'm sick of it. I'm flat out fucking busy today till, I don't know what, I woke up 7 o'clock. I've been flat out fucking studying, and I'm going to study till fucking 7 o'clock tonight. 12 hours, that's enough. Sorted. That's enough for me, and then 7 till onwards, I'll probably go to sleep at 9:30 because I've got to wake up at fucking 5:30 in the morning, travel to fucking Geelong, get ready, sit down, have my coffee, have my breakfast, and then do my exams. But seriously, I'm flat the fuck out doing shit today. The university website, I'm trying to get a form to fill out, but I click the link and it goes to a fucking error. I'm not the only one with this problem, but every teacher's been on our ass to do it ASAP and done by today. And then the university website just fucking shits itself. Oh, fuck's sake, made me so angry. And then Clyde Cricket Club have been on my fucking ass because I'm the my cricket coordinator and the junior coordinator. But I passed it on to someone else for the past 2 weeks. So, because I've been flat out at university, flat out at work, because October, November, December's big working months for the Turf Club. And clearly that person hasn't even had any contact at all or done a fucking thing, which has pissed me off because I've left it in their hands. And they want me to be a mascot tomorrow at Clyde Primary School to promote the My Cricket and all shit like that. No, I'm fucking busy tomorrow in Geelong. Can someone else out of the 100 fucking people at that club put their fucking hand up for once and actually do something? And then work brings me up about 5 minutes later and says, the office staff want you to complete an Excel worksheet for the plan of the function today, like a bird's eye view map of how the tables are going to be sorted out. I just said back to them, no, get fucked. Fucking do some work in the office instead of sitting on your ass watching Sky Racing the whole fucking day with your legs up on your fucking desk. Seriously, not hard to make it. You do it. Takes 5 minutes. I'm flat the fuck out today. Stop pushing me around. Oh, that's a late blow up, I reckon.
So obviously, when we listened to part one, there was no blow up, but he's made amends for that. Jesus, what do you think of that?
I say, welcome to the real world, champion.
That is one of the all-time.
He goes mental.
Oh,
he goes nuts.
He's got some good ones.
He just gets fixated on things, and he loses his mind, doesn't he, Trick?
Oh,
The great man. But yeah.
Don't get him started on Melbourne roads.
Oh, they are shocking, though.
They are
shocking. It
shocking.
took me like 45 minutes to get here.
Yeah, because you did say you left, and I was like, where are you?
Yeah.
He couldn't have been too busy. That was a pretty long rant.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking. Can't be that bad.
Now, what's your, speaking of going into more like growing up, what's your first memories of football growing up as a kid?
Probably like most kids, sort of either in the backyard, probably with my old man and brothers, probably just getting thrown a footy pretty early and probably having to wrestle it off each other, and then sort of the more formal stuff, probably like most kids, I was kicking and down to sort of as a junior down at Mount Martha Footy Club, and sort of that's how you sort of learn the ropes, I guess, and that natural sort of pathway from a little tacker.
Awesome. So, I've got a question. Who do you support?
I go for Carlton now because of my older brother.
Yeah.
I'm actually not a huge, I don't watch a lot of footy.
Yeah.
I think because I've always sort of been really involved in my own footy, that obviously with the captaincy and the leadership sort of stuff, it can be a bit consuming, and I do a lot of other things outside of footy as well. So I'm not unlike Nick, he is mad footy sort of nut. He loves it, and he'll watch lots of it, even though it's his whole life as an AFL footballer. But so I sort of never watched too much of the teams that I barracked for, and obviously supported Nick a lot. And when he was started playing more regular footy, then we just naturally were going to more games, watching more of his games, and then you sort of start really barracking for the team that he plays for. So
Awesome.
Did you play any other sports growing up? Was there anything else that tickled your fancy? Or
tried a lot actually. I did cricket for not that long. Cricket wasn't for me. I think I just I love the beach and the warm weather, and I don't know. I was no good at it, so that doesn't sort of help.
It usually doesn't help.
I couldn't. I just didn't know how to block. Dad tried to teach me how to block, but I just would always try and smack it for six. So I'd either hit a six or go out.
Sounds a lot like Connor.
That's nothing wrong with that. My number one motto is, you don't make friends with technique, and the harder you swing, the further the ball goes. So I'd say you would have been all right.
So didn't tried that out. Didn't like it. Sort of didn't last too long. I didn't like the helmet either. Just I felt like I couldn't see anything with the helmet on. But did a bit of surf life saving. Basketball, that was probably the only other one that lasted as long as sort of footy. And then you get to that sort of age where you sort of decide between the two. But I still wasn't that serious about basketball. I only sort of played domestic and wasn't really too keen on any of the sort of rep stuff with the late Friday nights and lots of travelling and all that sort of stuff. So, that was sort of about it. And then it, sort of later on, as a sort of, gone into uni and all that sort of stuff, and after TAC Cup and all that, and all the footy sort of stuff, got into my surfing a little bit more, and that's probably my other sort of main thing now that I do outside of footy, sport-wise,
So you just go for a surf?
Yeah, when I can, I go through phases where I'm pretty flat out, or I'm sort of trying to look after myself a bit with footy and that sort of stuff. But when I do get sort of some good chunks of time, or the surf's good, I'll try and get out a fair bit with my mates.
Have you done the? Is it it's like the aquatic one? It's like up near past the city.
Urban surf, yeah, done that a few times. So
my mate swears by it, says it's elite.
Oh, it's awesome, because it's that's the one really annoying thing about surfing, is it's.
You gotta wait.
You can't just grab a footy you can't just go grab a footy in a mate and go for a kick. You got the conditions have got to be right, and you got to have it's got to suit the time that you have spare or free to go. So you could have a spare day or whatever, or a free weekend, and you want to go surfing, but there's no surf, and it can be annoying.
Perfect. Yeah.
What was it playing growing up for Mount Martha? What was that like?
That was awesome. I think I don't know, Mount Martha is a bit of it's cool. It's a bit like a country town, but on the beach. So
it's a nice town.
It's
nice.
It is really nice, and I think it's when I was playing junior footy down there, it's obviously a lot different now. And Mornington and Mount Martha are massive, and they're quite popular, and there's a lot of people now, and shops have sort of gotten busier and more popular, and that sort of stuff. But when I started playing junior footy down there, it was awesome. Like Ferrera Reserve, where we played all of our home games, was I've got so many great memories down there, because it was amongst sort of all the sort of bushland, and there was a boardwalk that went through all there. So, you'd play your game of footy and, I'd be having to wait around all day because between, myself and my two other brothers, like you'd be there all day. So between games, you'd go off, buddy, running around.
Yeah.
As a little tacker through the boardwalk and around the estuary and down to the shops and you'd be in your Mounties kit all day. You'd probably run on the boardwalk in your footy boots wasn't probably safe, but and then it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, awesome. So is there, like, obviously growing up that way, playing footy early, was there any particular moment in your footy career where you're like, hang on, shit, I'm actually pretty good at this. Maybe I can do this full time? Like a particular moment or game where you're like, yeah, I'm good.
Probably not. Like I was like really unique, my sort of pathway in a sense, because I was always like growing up, I was always the worst footballer in sort of like with who I kicked around with, because I grew up with Lockie Whitfield across the road, and then obviously my older brother who was older than me, and he's obviously a decent footballer as well. So they were both like just a step ahead of me, and I was always really short, and like I'm still not that tall now, but I was really small. Like growing up, I had a bit of a sort of late growth spurt and became a sort of somewhat sort of decent height, not a sort of normal sort of height, but like I think growing up with them, I was just kind of like I was always an alright footballer. Like I went pretty hard as a little fella, and I was always surrounded by pretty elite company. So I definitely wasn't touted as being like a really good footballer or a future prospect or anything like that. And then it was probably my 18s year at Mornington where I was probably 16 or 17, and I was a bottom major, but I'd had a bit of a growth spurt that year, and I'd done quite a lot of surf lifesaving actually with one of the guys, James Cameron. I don't know if you know James Cameron, who plays down at Mornington. He's been there for a fair few years now, and he was a top ager then, and his old man did a lot of stuff with the like Portsea Lifesaving Club, and I was just sort of wanting to get fit and put on a bit of sort of size and strength, and did a lot of sort of surf lifesaving, and got pretty fit and in good nick, and did some training with him, and and then had a really good final series, and even still, like I got invited down to the Stingrays. Nick and I both had really good games that day because he was a top ager, and we got invited down to Stingrays. But I just kind of always thought I was sort of the underdog, and I got a bit of interest. And then I was like, went to Stingrays, and I was like, oh, like I'm sort of out of my depth here. Like I'm not, all these kids have been in the program for ages and they're all guns, and I'd love to just have a pre-season and see how I go. And then then you want to make the squad, and you make the squad, and then you're like, oh, geez, like I've done all right. Like I'm lucky, or I've done well. I've worked hard, or whatever sort of you put it down to. But then you go, oh, well, geez, it'd be sick to be able to play a game. Then you get a game, and then I think
keeps going from there.
Just sort of went going.
Sounds like a goer trick.
We love our goers.
Like goer.
But I guess the only real time that I was like, oh shit, like this is a chance potentially here is that we had both my brother and I had a bit of interest from the Kangaroos in our draft year, and they came around to our place for dinner and a meeting and that sort of stuff, and then you start to think, oh wow, like this is this is potentially something that it was weird because it's out of your control. So
it is. It really is.
Yeah, it's not a choice you make to be like, oh, I'm going to study this, or I'm going to go to uni and do that, or I'm going to apply for this job or whatever it is. It's just kind of you tick the boxes, you do what you get invited to do, or if you have clubs that want to speak to you, speak to them. But and you just got to sort of go through the process and the motions. But
it would be tough in that respect. Like it's literally out of your control. Yeah. You do everything you can, and then obviously it's whether like they like you or not, or like, oh yeah, he'll fit nicely. Yeah. It would be tough as well.
Yeah, and a lot comes down to it. Like you learn later in your career, and once you sort of have a nick in the system and sort of get to know sort of how it works, and there's so many factors that come down to it. Yeah. So it's pretty bizarre when you look back at it and go, wow, like the difference that it can have on your life. Yeah. So sort of sliding door moments are pretty cool in a sense. Like I love what I do now, and I'm awesome.
Oh, well, that's good to hear.
I love sort of what I do, and I don't think I'd change a thing if I got asked to be on an AFL list tomorrow. I'd probably say no, because I would say no because I wouldn't want to change a thing.
How your life's going. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Cool. Being that, as you said, like that type of underdog going into that Stingray thing, did that make you like anxious, or when you went there, or did you feel like normal as such, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I was like Yeah, it is tough. Like, it's a tough age group, like, or an age sort of bracket to go into something like that because, yeah, you don't really know anyone, and like I knew a couple of people, but I just felt like I wasn't sort of supposed to be there, and that I was sort of like a lot of my career as well. It was always like I always looked up to my older brother and thought he was awesome and a gun, and like I sort of followed his footsteps a little bit with that side of things.
Corey doesn't think about that with Trick though. I can tell you that now.
So, like, yeah, I just I probably just always thought, well, like, I'm just sort of getting invited because Nick got invited down and I played okay, and like, you know, so yeah, it wasn't probably until later on when Nick got drafted and I went overseas and I came back and I had different reasons for coming back to play footy, and I sort of felt like I forged my own sort of career in a sense, and it's they're just sort of the dynamics of it. But it was pretty anxious that sort of going into the Stingrays because you sort of feel like you potentially, like, you know, as you said, like an underdog, and you sort of feel like you're out of your depth. But I made some really cool friends, and you know, some awesome mates that I had a really good period there of a couple of years where I had some awesome friends. And
so what kind of names were playing at the Stingrays when you were there?
Ones that sort of went on. Obviously, in my top age year, Lockie Whitfield
went one, didn't he? Went number one.
He went number one.
Can play footy.
Yeah.
Can run.
Oh yeah.
Can run.
Oh yeah.
So that he obviously went one, and I can't really remember. Billy Hartung, I think, went that year.
You broke the beat test record, I think.
Yeah,
I did.
Those two used to sort of go at it with the running sort of stuff. So, and then the following year was like Jack Loney and Zach Jones.
So decent players. Yeah,
some really good players. So I'm sure I'm missing some very good players too. Like I said, I don't watch too
it
much.
was a while ago. Yeah.
But no, it was good. It was a good time, and I learned a lot. And I guess sort of gave me a bit of a foundation to sort of go on and have a decent sort of AFL career.
So obviously, I guess the pathway to AFL has changed a lot recently. Do you think it's changed for the better, or do you think, obviously, it's a lot, they look at the mature age a lot now. Do you think that's better for the development program of like AFL players? Because it is a big step going from, I guess, under 18s straight into senior men football.
Yeah, I do. I think it's. I think that they should still look at, you know, more mature age players, because I think that sort of, you know, a lot of the guys that I've come across, and I've seen a lot of guys come through at Frankston and that, and you really don't sort of see them starting to hit their potential until sort of 22, 23. Like,
I agree with that. See, there's some decent footballers rolling around local leagues. Yeah,
and it's hard because, like, I think they sort of get in tight, and then like there's that sort of I don't know, with those sorts of players. Like I've spoken, you know, the last sort of 12 months to a lot of our sort of 20 to sort of 23, 24-year-olds at Frankston, and like they sort of still can feel like that window's closed, even though like they're just starting to hit their best sort of form.
They're maturing as a person, and their body's pretty much matured.
But they sort of, you know, it's easy to get pulled back to sort of local footy because they're starting to kind of play good VFL footy, so then they can get sort of good local offers. And
the cash is decent out there.
So, you know, it's harder to keep them in that sort of pathway and that system, because I think, VFL, as much as sort of, I still think they should be looking at more mature age players.
I agree with that.
Because then I think it would also entice players around that sort of 22 to 25 sort of age bracket to continue to sort of persist and keep going.
Yeah, because a lot of people do give it up after that 20 age group, or they don't do it for the same reasons.
Yeah, well, life gets in the way. Obviously, you have to go out and work and stuff.
Yeah.
But, like, I think it's, like you said, is that the mature age person is probably a better option. Sometimes they actually have life experience, they understand the real world, and then once they get thrown that opportunity, they want it. Like, they're not going to work their ass off to make their mark on the AFL and stuff.
What are your first memories of going down to Frankston, and who stood out to you straight away as like a leader of the pack?
My memories were, it was different. Like, it was so different to what like VFL footy and Frankston in particular is now. Like, I was really young, like, and I felt, you know, I'd obviously, again, like, I felt like I was back at, like, we spoke about the Stingray stuff and feeling like out of depth, and then I obviously sort of built up a bit of a reputation now, and I played some good footy, and I got invited back as a 19-year-old, and you're a bit older and a bit more mature than them, so you sort of feel like you belong and that, and then all of a sudden I was like, you know, thrown back in the deep end, and I was at Frankston, and there was men, like, they were genuine, you know, back then as well. They had a lot of mature age, like real solid, mature age players. And again, my older brother was there, and I was kind of just sort of following his footsteps a little bit. And it was probably it's a bit of a bizarre experience for me because I'd always, like I said, looked up to my older brother and sort of thought he was a lot better than I was. And then my first year there, I played my first game in the twos. I had 2 possessions, and I was like, I'm no good at this. Like, I'm going to be like, I just can't play against men or something like that. And then the next week I had a pretty decent game and another all right game, and then got into the ones, and I had a really good first game. I don't know what it was, but I was expecting to have a first stinker again in the ones, but I actually played all right. And the coach then was pretty excited because I was sort of only 18, 19, and then I ended up playing the rest of that year in the ones. My older brother Nick was playing the twos all year, so it was a bit awkward for me. It was a bit awkward at home, So, but those things changed pretty quick. The following year, he pulled his finger out and had a crack and got himself drafted. But they were really good memories. Like I loved playing with my older brother. Like they were probably my highlights. Playing with your brother in an 18s flag at Mornington, and then going to Stingrays together. And we were 2 years apart, but because he was a bit younger, he sort of fell down in
that.
In school, he was 2 years above me, but in sport and footy, he was only sort of 1 year above me. So we were lucky to play a lot of footy together and be on that journey together a lot through Stingrays, and then at Frankston. But they were good memories, and I think back then sort of Shane Hockey was the one that sort of stood out, and there was like Ziggy Elwyn. He used to take these amazing big marks, and the crowd loved him. And Michael Lowry, Scott Simpson, they were all these like Luke Potts, like they were all these older guys that they sort of really put their sort of stamp on Frankston VFL footy. But it was old school. It was real old school back then as well. Like it was just old school sort of. VFL footy, so it's changed a lot since then. It was.
What part do you like? Do you like the old school? Do you prefer that type of footy or nowadays?
I think I prefer the. I don't know. I sort of adapted to it well because I was a really physical, contested player, and sort of prided myself on. I just kind of knew I was never like super skillful, and sort of as I said, growing up with Nick and Lockie, they were both really skillful players, but that was sort of the only way I could get an upper hand on them was like I was really physical, and I just knew I had to sort of go to war to try and beat them because they were so skillful and fit and that sort of stuff. So that probably suited me, like going up against men, because I just knew I had to go and I had to impose myself on the contest to sort of earn respect. But the coaching side of things, and I think the way that the culture of old school sort of footy, looking back on it, I'm glad that things have changed in that space. Because I think football clubs can be pretty amazing places if we can sort of promote them being safe places and people being able to be vulnerable and speak up, and it can be a great place to identify when young men are sort of doing it tough, and we can sort of put our arms around them. Where it was back then, when I first started, it was very much like you had to be hard and tough and not show emotion. Which I think later in my career you could sort of see that I still played like that, but off the field I was a completely different person.
Exactly. So you definitely have to be that now.
Yeah, definitely. So
Now, I actually went to primary school with a bloke who played for Frankston. I want to know what your memories are of playing with him. I went to primary school with Jason Pongracic.
Yeah.
How was he like as a teammate?
Oh, he's the best. I loved Pongo. Him and I are really good mates, so we actually moved. We played together at Frankston. He was my captain. He was like one of the youngest captains I'd ever played on. He was like 22, I think, or 21. And an interesting journey Pongo had because he was touted to get...
It's like top 20, wasn't he?
Top 10, and then it was top 20, and then he just was one of those guys that was bigger and stronger than everyone and just bullied everyone. And I think the timing was just really poor for him in a sense that, he was this... Sort of all the attention was on him when he was real young, and he was a gun, and then sort of everyone caught up to him, and he was still an amazing player. But I think then everyone else caught up with him, and then closer it got to sort of draft day, there was all these other prospects, and I think he just kind of fell.
I think he did an injury too, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he was pretty unlucky at a few times going in, and I think there was sort of questions on his sort of speed and that sort of stuff because he was really solid, and I guess the game was changing really rapidly leading up into those sort of first few years that they were sort of drafting a lot of running players, and the game was opening up a lot more. And it was more, you know, they loved the speed in the game and players that were quick and that sort of stuff. And yeah, Pongo was an absolute beast. And like, you know, I remember playing with him at Willie. If a few games, he'd have more tackles than he would possessions. Like he just, he was just brutal. And I bet he's just an awesome person. And yeah, like a real quirky sort of person to be. And we lived together for, you know, a year or so down in Williamstown. We moved together, him, Josh Pickers and I, from Frankston down to Williamstown and played a year there together. And he was awesome. I loved living with him. He's a good fella.
So how was, obviously Frankston left the VFL.
Yeah.
So how was the move actually to Williamstown in the end? What did you like about Frankston? What did you like about Williamstown? And did you notice a difference in like the programs and stuff when you left?
Yeah, definitely. Like it was definitely a period with Frankston where we were doing it tough. And it just wasn't a VFL footy club. Like people were trying really hard, and there were some really good people that were really passionate and trying to do the right things, but we just didn't have the foundations there. And I probably didn't realise that until I went to Williamstown. I was like, wow, this is a serious operation, and they pride themselves on, you know, being the best standalone club outside of the AFL. So, and you could see that when I went there, and I went there at a time where they were pretty strong, and they'd won a flag recently, and they still had a really good crop of mature age players, and I loved it. Like I was, you know, it was my first year teaching as getting a full-time wage, and first time living out of home with two of my sort of best mates, and at a different footy club. So I was confident because I'd won the best and fairest that year at Frankston, so I sort of felt like I was
and
I was a good player, and I didn't have to worry about going there and sort of proving myself as a footballer. But I had this sort of refreshed kind of outlook on things. I still wanted to impress and be professional and sort of earn the respect of the players. But but it was also really enjoyable. Three mates in a sort of beat up joint in South Kingsville or whatever that we had a few parties, and
it would have been good fun out there. How old were you when you were down there?
22.
Oh yeah, you had a good time.
It's good age. You finally got a bit of money, like disposable income, and we didn't have to worry too much about keeping the house that clean because it was just an old joint, and we were three blokes, and it was good fun.
Yeah, it would have been.
Fun. Yeah.
Now, 2016, as you mentioned, you won the best and fairest at Frankston. What do you think really clicked that season? How was that season for you personally?
Probably took me by surprise, to be honest. I just kind of
playing off the halfback, obviously.
Playing off halfback, and I think obviously not being a really strong side. I think I just and then the ball was in the back line a fair bit, so I was getting a bit of footy, and I just probably it was just probably I guess the compounding a few compounding years of AFL footy and a few pre-seasons, and I just sort of had a lot more sort of confidence, and was going for my marks a bit more, and I was sort of reading the play a little bit better, and I think it was one of those years I didn't really have any pressure on me because no one really expected too much still, and I was still relatively young, and played with a lot of freedom, and the coach sort of backed me in to play a bit loose so I could sort of read the play and try and cut things off and get free and that. I'm sure if you look through any tapes, I probably didn't defend that well.
I'll go home tonight and have a look at them, and I'll let you know.
Don't worry, there's plenty of halfbacks that don't defend.
You can name a fair few.
But it was good. It was it was a surprise. I didn't think I'd win it, but it was a bit of a surprise on the night, and then it was a nice feather in the cap. And
have a nice celebration afterwards.
No, I didn't actually. I was because I actually got call sort of 4 weeks post season, and it was just before our what was it? I got it. Was it 4 weeks after I finished? And I was real I sort of the footy season. As soon as footy season finished, like I said, I'd go away. I'd go on holidays, go surfing, whatever. I'd eat crap. I'd drink. And at that age as well, you'd try and be pretty strict throughout the year, and we played a lot of Sunday games back then, so you couldn't really go out and have a beer that often. So season finished, and I reckon I put on 5 or 6 kilos in 4 or 5 weeks. And I actually had a call. I was rocking up to my sort of last one of my last blocks of placement at school, and I got a call from Essendon asking me to sort of come and do a private testing day in 4 weeks, and I was like, shit, I've put on about 4 or 5 kilos, and I'm not feeling fit, and I got only sort of 4 or 5 weeks to get fit, so I didn't really tell too many people about that, but I had to I fully stop drinking for 4 weeks, had to be really careful with what I ate. I had Rick Mirabella, who was sort of the fitness guy back then, that sort of helped me out, and it was real strict diet and food and training and that to try and get as fit as I could in that sort of 4 or 5 weeks to impress at the testing.
Yeah, and then obviously when you went to Williamstown, am I right in saying you were VFL state representative?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to, I went to Williamstown and learned a lot off Colo, and he probably taught me a bit more about defence. I only had probably 4 or 5 touches the first couple of games because he didn't want me to get the footy. He's like, I don't want you to get the footy. I want you to learn to defend, and then once you learn to defend, you can kind of play off and you'll get the balance right, sort of thing. So I learned a lot about my game, a lot about defence, and I was lucky enough to sort of get selected for the last ever state representative game for Victoria. So, which was a great experience, and I enjoyed it. We got pumped, but
That's
and that was why it was the last ever one.
It's all about the experience.
But it was cool to have the jersey, and I still got it at home and with the big V on it. So it was cool.
Do you reckon they should bring back State of Origin footy?
I think they should, but they just have to do it properly. We played a team that had been training for 4 or 5 weeks leading into it. And we had 2 training sessions, and one of them was, an information night and going through it all, and then we went on the park for a bit of a kick, and then the second one was a proper training session, and
you had dinner.
You didn't get to know anyone that well, and it was a great experience still in that, but we were coming up against a side that took it really seriously, and they were training for a few weeks, and it was pretty obvious in the game that they were just sort of outplayed us and had a bit more connection than we did.
Yeah.
And did you get invited to the state combine at the end of that season too? I believe. Yeah. How was that?
Yeah. That was another great experience. So I think that was the second one that I'd been invited to. So I got invited to one in my draft year, I think, or maybe 19s. No, I think it was in my draft year. I got invited to the state combine, and that was cool. But then the second time round, I was obviously a bit older and a bit more mature, and was sort of able to go into it, the best that I could. I still look back on it all, and I probably didn't I probably didn't put in the work that was needed to be an elite athlete, and probably didn't realise that you probably got to do that work. The hardest part is to get drafted. That's what I truly believe. The hardest part is to get drafted, and then once you're in the system, things don't work out for some players, and it does for others. But at least you've
got your foot in the door.
You got your foot in the door, and you're in an elite program, and you're surrounded by elite athletes, and you can kind of learn the ropes and just sort of you apply it and see how you go. But to get drafted, you got to do a lot. You got to be making a lot of sacrifices, and you got to know those things from a young age, which is hard when you just turn 18. You wanted to go out and have fun with your mates. I was at uni, and we were going on. I studied outdoor ed, so we're going on trips and all that sort of stuff. And you want to stop at the bakery and have a pie and all that sort of stuff. And
all the KFC on a Sunday morning, so you're a bit hung.
Those things I probably didn't learn until I came back from overseas, and I really wanted to kind of get the most out of my footy that I could, and I really started taking some sacrifices to get in good enough nick. But those experiences were still really good, and I still remember those, and they were daunting. I remember being really nervous, obviously, because it was such a bizarre experience. There with a whole lot of other guys that you don't really know them all. You're all competing to get drafted, and you've got AFL recruiters watching you, and it's just I'm a really easygoing,
it would be, I wouldn't be able to do it either.
So you want to sort of, it's just, it was really a bit uncomfortable for me at times because I'm, as I say, I'm pretty easygoing, and I don't take anything sort of too seriously, and but it was a very serious, experience, and everyone's watching you and not sort of saying too much, and you just kind of got to,
doing their little whispers.
It'd be very daunting.
Yeah.
In 2018, you took a year off the game, is that right in saying? And took a surfing trip to South America with some of your mates. You said you needed some time away from the game. What was this, and how did this help you mentally, or even going into the 2019 season?
So I don't know, I just sort of, as I said, I had the draft combine, and then previous to that, which sort of not many people sort of know, but I'd had a few sort of pretty much from that 2016 Best and Fairest at Frankston. I kept getting invited back to sort of private testing days with Essendon. I don't know, they must have liked me, but never enough to actually take me. But for a few years in a row there,
as an Essendon supporter, it would be pretty tough being there at the minute. So I think you dodged the bullet there.
So I'd had a few years back to back where I, as I've said earlier, like I loved my footy, but when it was done, I was like, sweet, sort of happy for it to be over for a month, for a couple of months, and go surfing and go on a couple of trips and that. And I'd always sort of get those calls sort of 2 or 3 or 4 weeks post season when I'm trying to switch off, and then I'd be like, crap, and then I have to go into sort of overdrive mode and get really fit really quick and train and all sorts of stuff, and then you'd go through that process, and then you wouldn't get drafted, and then you're back at preseason again. I'm like, I feel like I had a break, and I was sort of, I just wanted a bit of a break from it all, and I kind of lost that night, especially that last year at Willie. Like, we played finals, and there was I had obviously a bit of interest, and I got invited to the combine and had the state game and that, and it was like, I don't know, people would question like, oh, are you playing for the team, or are you playing to sort of get yourself drafted, which I was never someone that, I was always a team first player, and I always played like that, but I don't know, I was like a bit over sort of politics and the whispers of stuff, and
fair enough.
All the other stuff outside of it. I just enjoyed playing with my mates, so decided to take a year off, and a couple of my best mates who don't play footy or anything like that anymore, and mad surfers, and they were like, we're going on this trip, like, do you want to come? And I was like, far out, do I give it one more year to try and sort of get picked up? And I was still sort of 23, 24, or do I take off and
enjoy life?
Yeah, well, and just take it, like, it was one of those ones, like, my 2 best mates, they're twin brothers, my best mates, we're pretty much like 3 brothers, we get along so well, and we argue and fight like brothers and that sort of stuff, and it was like, well, that trip will never happen again, and it never will happen again, and it was the absolute trip of a lifetime, and we talk about it. I talk about the trips and the stories with them all the time, like monthly, and every time we catch up, we talk about it, and we'd love to go do it again, and we're going to do a little reunion trip, like nowhere near as long, but like we missed a country in Nicaragua, and we wanted to do that, but we weren't allowed in at the time. They had a sort of civil unrest and that. So we're going back to do that as a bit of a sort of memento, because we're really looking forward to going there. But I don't regret it at all. Like, it was just it was an awesome experience. I learned a lot about myself as a person.
You learn, you learn a lot when you travel.
100%. And then I came back a better footballer and a better sort of leader and all that sort of stuff, and got more out of myself, because I feel like I had different reasons to play footy when I came back.
What was your favourite place when you went over to South America?
Oh, it has in Mexico. We ended up spending 7 weeks in Mexico. So, we couldn't get us out of there.
Don't worry, I've been told I'm not allowed in South America. I had a couple of mates who went to South America. They didn't leave. I think it was Colombia or something for like 3 months.
Yeah.
They just,
Oh, it's pretty cool. Like, some of the stuff you're like beach clubs and all sorts of stuff that just don't really exist here, and it's
wild.
Yeah, and like, you could be on like just walking out of the surf all day, and then you walk into a like bar on the beach, or like there's little ladies that just come up to you with these like the most amazing food that they just sell you on the beach. And like, I'm a huge beach bum, like I love the beach, but there's not much sort of, obviously the rules and regulations are a lot different in those sorts of countries, so you can do anything on the beach, and set up chairs and tables, and people have businesses on the beach, and nightclubs on the beach, all that sort of stuff, where here you sort of don't really have that sort of stuff. But Mexico was sick, because it was just like, it was the mix of everything. We went to a few countries that were like awesome surf locations, but they were like real remote and not really close to places, where Mexico was cool as, because it was like, you had these awesome big cities that were happening and vibing, and then you had these cool little like surf towns that you'd go and stay there for a while, and if the surf's good, you'd stay for ages, and if not, you'd head back to one of the main cities and party and that. So,
is there any places that you want to tick off the bucket list in the future?
Doesn't even have to be South America, just anywhere really.
There's a lot. So we really want to go back and do Nicaragua, because we missed that one through Central America. And other than that, I'd like to go to Everest and do base camp. I'd love to go to Nepal and do that. I've done a fair bit of Southeast Asia, but I'd like to go back and do sort of a bit more of that.
Have you done the cliche Europe?
Nah, I haven't yet.
You got to do Europe.
Yeah, I think
Europe's good.
Yeah.
You went to Europe, didn't you?
I've done Europe, yeah.
Yeah.
Germany is the best place in the world. Munich, wow.
Yeah. Well, I think I'll definitely do that. Not sure when. I feel like I'll be older doing that.
Yeah.
A bit more expensive, I think, the old Europe trip compared
It can be, yeah.
Yeah, it depends how you do it.
You do it right is what I'll say. Just don't
And what's that?
have lots of money and go big.
Well, exactly. So I think I'll save up a bit once we're,
Price is much different. What's the difference over there in Germany like?
It's not too bad, to be honest. Obviously, the euro is a lot more, like, it's a lot better than the Australian dollar. But, like, their cost of living's not too bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the food and stuff and beer, and that's still pretty decent prices. It's just, like, obviously apartments and, like, if you were living there, it's more expensive.
Okay, yeah. In 2019, Frankston moved back into the VFL and you were named club captain. What did this mean for you and what was the honour like?
Yeah, it was, again, most things in my footy journey, they sort of take you by surprise, and I probably always sort of doubted myself a bit with a lot of things, so anytime these sort of things came up, I probably was, like, a bit surprised, but, I don't know, it was just a unique experience, and it was weird because I hadn't played footy for 12 months, I'd been doing the complete opposite and travelling overseas and surfing and not sort of, didn't even watch footy, like, because you just couldn't over there, but came back and decided I wanted to play, and I think because I was so far behind, or felt like I was so far months off, I was like, I think I was like 92 kilos, and I was like hadn't lifted a weight, hadn't ran, I'd just been surfing and eating and drinking for 12 months, and
nothing wrong with that, I guess.
Yeah, nothing wrong with it. It was great.
Sounds great.
I was as happy as I've ever been.
Where do I sign up?
I knew that if I wanted to play VFL footy again, I had to sort of make some drastic changes and really commit. And make some sacrifices.
What were some of them?
Well, I didn't drink for that whole year pretty much. So once footy season finished, I celebrated and had a healthier relationship with alcohol. Not that I had an unhealthy relationship with it at all, but it's just one of those ones. I feel like when you're drinking on the weekend, like even if you don't even drink that much, it just like even if it's every month, that I think set you back, and then you feel like you kind of got to do all the right things again for a week or two, and then you start getting into sort of these healthy habits and routines, and I think the compounding impact of not drinking every weekend, and like I'm the type of person, like most people do, you have a few beers and then the next day you smash a HSP or a bloody donut, or like I just eat, like, so it was
wait till you're my age. It takes me about Wednesday to get over a big night.
And like
cranky as all hell on a Monday morning, aren't I, Trick?
Oh yeah, you are. Not if you have your electrolytes though.
Yeah. But yeah, so I just really watched what I ate. I stopped drinking for, it was probably 8 months all up in the end. And then I just went to work and I just worked my ass off, and I think that probably reflected amongst the group, and I'd obviously had a history at Frankston, so I'd already played quite a fair bit of VFL footy at Frankston, and they were a really young list and a new list. Like I hadn't played with any of those guys. I think Blake Mullane was the only one from the previous sort of Frankston before they went out of the competition, and I think I was a bit older, played a lot of VFL footy. I was training really hard. I wasn't drinking, so I was behaving myself when I went out. And the boys, I don't know, just kind of, he doesn't drink and that sort of stuff, and thought I was this real serious guy. So they actually got to know me a bit better the last couple of years because I've loosened up a little bit.
Yeah.
But that first year I was pretty serious about it, and I sort of, was keen to sort of, put my head down and work hard, and that reflected, and the group voted, and they voted for me as captain, and I didn't really know I had those qualities, and then once I got put in that position, I really enjoyed it, and I really I felt I thrived. Being a school teacher, I was able to kind of articulate myself pretty well, and I wasn't too fazed with standing up in front of the group and communicating to them, and I wasn't afraid to, I was pull guys up and have those hard conversations with players, because it was, I was doing that similar sort of stuff with teenagers in my sort of work and that, so. I guess that's kind of what reflected, and I pride myself on building relationships with people and connections, and that sort of showed through. So
Is there anything you would change looking back on it? Anything you would change?
Probably not. Like not that I was perfect, but I made mistakes, and you learn from those mistakes, and I think I don't like to regret anything, because I think everything that you do that happens.
For a reason.
Yeah, it happens for a
reason. You learn from your mistakes as well,
And if you don't, yeah, you might have stuffed something up there, or you might have done something or said something that was embarrassing or the wrong thing, or you upset someone, but then from that you learn, well, wow, like I got to be careful what I say, or like, you know, you do something and then people do the same sort of thing and you realise, oh, far out, like people look up to me and I got to be careful with what I do, and people sort of are looking to me to sort of how they want to behave and sort of the type of person they want to be, or a young man that they want to be because you're the captain and they sort of look up to you. And I guess understanding that.
Yeah, I can relate very highly with that.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it's changed a lot these days, but did you see a difference from when you first started, like in the VFL system, to when you were captain, how you had to lead, like how you had to build relations with different type of players? How did you find that? Did you have to adapt to it, different certain situations and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think I wanted to be different. Like I wanted to sort of make a bigger impact outside of the footy side of things. So I think I invested a lot more time into, compared to probably previous captains that I'd had, where there wasn't much responsibility really. It was, you know, about having to rev the boys up and you know, it was, you know, they facilitate, you know, some like, it was just like getting blokes up and embarrassing them, or, you know, getting them to tell stories, or, you know, planning an awesome piss up or whatever it might have been. And it was, you know, about getting boys in at halftime, giving them a rev up and yelling and screaming and that, which there's always a time for that. And yes, I still play in social functions that were great and fun and pissed and had a good time. That's an important part of it. Not that, but it was about promoting the fact that, like, and not, I feel like football clubs were like, just peer pressure, you know, could be these big peer pressured environments that people feel like they had to
a boys club society.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Boys club and sort of felt like they had to do or things or behave certain ways
to try and fit in.
Where, you know, I facilitated a lot of fun things and that sort of stuff, but I wanted to really share the message with the players that it was okay for them to be them, and that diversity is great. Correct. And that we want lots of different personalities. Like, you don't have to fit this mold of like a hard, tough footballer.
The macho man,
and I think I invested a lot of time to caring about the players outside of footy, because...
Which I think you have to do anyway, general society. And as a school teacher, you would understand that. Yeah. As for myself, I look after a lot of 15, 16, 17-year-olds. Yeah. And through the years, I've noticed that you can't be this hard ass to them anymore. You've got to be a parent to them sometimes.
100%. And that's probably, like you said, with the question, like the biggest change is that you can't just yell and scream at people. Like, it just doesn't work anymore. And you need to build that relationship first. And you can have hard conversations with people, but if you've got the relationship there that you've built with them and they trust you and they respect you, and then you also follow up from that hard conversation and give them some direction, then, you know, you're doing all you can to, you know, not burn those bridges.
And they start working for you a lot better too, I find, as well.
100%, because they know that you've invested and you've cared for, like, you've invested in...
You've invested your time in them, and they respect that, and 100%. They look up to you for it,
Did you find being a teacher, as in your career, helped that a lot?
100%, yeah. So I think they've sort of both helped each other in a sense. So I'm a better teacher for the stuff I've done within the footy world, and I'm a better, you know, captain and hopefully potentially a better coach for my teaching experience. So I think it's all, you know, it's all relative, and it's all similar in the sense that, you know, for me it's all about relationships, and it's building relationships, and it's with the education stuff as well as the footy stuff. It's, you know, with my students, I really invest my time early into asking questions and finding out who they are, so that I can teach them better and I can cater for their learning better. Just like as players, you know, if you get to know them on a different level and you talk to them about stuff other than footy, then you can try and understand what, you know, if they're coming off, if you find out that they're I don't know, you know, a tradie that's waking up at 5 a.m. and they're working physically all day, and they come to training and they look exhausted and they're knackered, and you're spraying them for looking like they don't want to be there, you know, and then they go, well, this is bullshit, like, it's all too hard and I don't want to do this anymore. And you understand them, you go, all right, like, mate, like, your work must be pretty flat out, like, what have you been doing? And then you find out, you know, reasons why people are, you know, behaving a certain way or not doing this or doing that. So yeah, I think just understanding them, you know, the students, I can teach them better, and understanding the players, you can kind of guide them and lead them better.
Yeah, awesome.
Now, as you mentioned, coaching, you've recently been appointed captain coach of Mornington Football Club. What persuaded this, and how excited are you for the future of this?
Yeah, just have to correct you. Like, not captain coach. I couldn't take that away from Adrian Speedy. He's an absolute superstar. I've done my captaincy duties, so I'm moving on now to the coaching. So,
player coach. I better say
player coach. Yeah, player coach. I think it's just the old, isn't it? Like it's always the captain coach. That's what they always used to call it, wasn't 100%. It? So a lot of people say it. I've said it a couple of times, I think, as well. But just the coaching, the captaincy in itself is a big job. And Speedy's doing an awesome job down there. And the coaching I didn't see coming.
Bit of a trend.
Yeah, literally. So, but I think, I don't know, it's just one of those ones that. I was getting a little bit older. Life's changing a little bit. My partner and I bought a house in Mornington, and we're looking to sort of settle down. And I really I love community. Like that's a big part of sort of why I do things, and I love the fact that footy clubs play a big part in community, and it's a really important part of a community. In Frankston, it was a community in a sense, but it's a lot more about the footy, and it's the VFL, and they didn't have a great. It's not community footy. It just isn't.
Yeah.
Like, it's VFL State League footy, and it's great, and it's awesome for the footy side of things. But I was just blown away with how much I guess you can have an impact on the direct community, especially the community I live in. And I was really impressed with Mornington when they came to me and sort of had the same sort of vision as what I have and the impact that I want to have, and they found out a bit more about myself and sort of what I do and how I go about things, and that sort of aligned really well with them. And it was a unique opportunity, and one that I probably didn't think I've said this to a few people. I think I told my partner Sarah probably 6 months earlier, don't ever let me coach.
And bang,
I saw how stressful it was with our coach at Frankston, and it was he was sort of battling a bit with just struggling to get coaches to training, and you could see that he was pretty stressed with some stuff, and it's just a huge workload. And Mornington really offered a lot of support and put some really good people around me, and
awesome.
It's something that I'm excited about. I'm a bit nervous because it's new and it's a big job, and the expectation, there's so many people that at Frankston it was just one team, where Mornington, it's a massive club. Like, you got
3 sides,
three men's sides, 3 or 4 women's sides.
Jesus.
The netball as well. So and everyone's excited. It's great that everyone's excited, and there's a lot of buzz about the club. It's going to be a steep learning curve, but I've got really good support around me. And I wouldn't have taken the job, and I probably wouldn't have taken any other coaching jobs if it wasn't for the fact that it was Mornington, my home club, and that they just gave me so much trust and faith that they'd support me and put everything in place around me to help me in my sort of first year or so.
So what can we expect from Mornington going into next season then? Flagged?
Well, I would have said that probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, but the Division 2 recruiting has been off the charts. A lot of clubs are looking really strong. So
as I think someone might be walking in, and maybe a recruit of yours.
Yeah. So we've been really looking at, I guess, strengthening the depth and the younger guys coming through. So I think the club have really decided to, they probably identified that they were lacking a lot of sort of those pathways and keeping good young talent in there for sustainable success. So we've been speaking to a couple of sort of a lot of young guys that we think are pretty talented and that we want to get to Mornington to help build that sustained success. But we also think that we can have success in the short term as well. Because there was a lot of players that just kind of after COVID probably went away and did different things. And
now they're starting to come back.
Now they're coming back, and we've got Jacko Calder back, who's a gun key forward.
Played some time Northern Territory.
He's been up there, so he's been playing some good footy up there, and he kicked 69 goals, I think, in the shortened season. Mornington was his last year, I think 12 or 13 games, and he kicked.
Yeah, it's not bad.
70 goals. So Jake Smart's coming back. He's a weapon off half-back and an elite leg on him. So he'll be good, and hopefully I can have a bit of an impact as well as a player still. And
off the half-back or in the middle?
Don't know. We've got a very strong midfield with Nathan Heath and Adrian
get rid of the
Speedy
midfield, go back line, get in the the forward line.
Get
the paddock going. I reckon it's all his.
Well, get out of my way.
That's the beauty of being the coach.
Yeah, you can put you where you want.
Well, put me where I want, or B, depending on where I need to play. Based on the sort of and you're not having to deal with upsetting any egos or any players because I can just move myself. I'm not going to be too angry at myself if I'm moving myself to different positions. So, so got some good young guys coming through. Got some, we didn't have to add much. I didn't think. If you look at the ladder, we didn't finish well. We finished 7th, but if you look at all the key stats, we were actually a really good side and in the key sort of stats.
Just couldn't put it together as such.
Yeah, just couldn't sort of put it together. So we're looking to kind of simplify things a bit. Like we'll take a really complex game plan, obviously with my knowledge from Frankston and our assistant Lee, but we'll be filtering that down a lot and simplifying it, and it'll be all about communication and making sure that everyone's on the same page and everyone knows their role and we're going to have fun.
You gotta have
that's
fun.
the best thing about community football. You got to have fun.
You got to have fun.
The amount of young guys I've spoken to, or just players in general, in the last sort of 6 months to 12 months, even at the VFL level, like so many people are losing the love for the game, or that it's
for some people it's their job. Yeah, like they're mercenary footballs out there.
100%. So it'll be about having fun and ultimately being around some of your best mates in your local community, having a blast, and hopefully win some games and get some success. Yeah.
I believe you wanted to ask. Now this is where it gets a bit quirky. Connor likes the funny side of stuff.
Yeah,
so I believe he's got some interesting type of questions.
Now Tricky's told me to keep it G-rated, and as knowing that you're a school teacher, I've tried to do my best. So I've just got 6 questions. So I've added one as we've been chatting. So obviously, number 1, if you're a wrestler, what's your entrance song?
Wrestler, my entrance song would have to be I'm the Man by 50 Cent.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, that'd be it.
So obviously, number 2, if humans developed from monkeys, why do we still have monkeys, do you reckon?
That is an interesting question.
I was trying to think of a good answer to it last night, so I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's good.
I guess.
What goes on in your head?
I don't know.
I think we evolved from everything, though, don't we? That's why there's. Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe they're actually more like evolved species now.
Who knows? Maybe maybe we were around before them.
I like this one, Trick. This is probably one of my favourites. If you punch yourself in the face, are you weak or strong if it hurts?
That's just what is it called? A double.
Yeah. I was trying to, I couldn't think of an answer either. I'd go with you really strong.
Really strong.
Yeah. I think that's going to make you feel better about yourself.
Yeah.
You hit something today at work, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Did you punch yourself in the face?
No, smacked a garbage bag, like a big roll of them. So obviously you go to the movies. So which side of the armrest is actually yours at the movies, do you reckon?
Oh,
or are you the type of person that takes double and alpha move it?
I'm a shocker because I usually go with someone, and if of recent times it's probably been my partner Sarah. So I just take hers. You take the one.
I always go right, yeah,
and then I don't know. Actually, ideally like to take both.
Both, yeah, just alpha.
But I'm also a pushover, so.
So obviously, number 5, I like to put some animals up against each other in a fight.
Nice.
So last week was a crocodile or a great white shark, which I would want to settle the debate
with
there.
Jackson. Yeah.
It's definitely a crocodile. 100% it's a crocodile. 100%. Sharks can only go one way. Croc can like spin out and come back. Yeah, so obviously, who wins in a fight? 12 flamingos or a giraffe?
12 flamingos, just sheer number.
The sheer number?
Yeah, the sheer number of them will get it done.
See, I go the other way. I reckon it's the giraffe because I've got a feeling like the giraffe could use their neck as like a sweeping motion. But
you're going to get all 12 of them?
No, you never know.
And while they're sweeping those ones, the other ones, I reckon just weigh the numbers.
Yeah. So obviously the question that I came up with during the podcast is obviously your brother is Nick Newman. Yeah. I'm not a Carlton supporter, but I've got a great love for Paddy Cripps. Yeah. Is Paddy Cripps as good looking in person as he is on the TV?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. That's what
and he's a ripping bloke too.
Yeah,
he's
he looks
really
like
nice fella, and
How tall is he too in like real life? Because you don't understand like.
Yeah, he's massive.
Could he generally play a key position?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
He's big too.
Yeah, because he's solid.
Didn't we find out he's bigger than Kerno, isn't he?
Yeah, he's taller than Kerno.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah,
he's a solid.
He's a fucking good footballer.
I was a bit surprised at the Brownlow. At start of the year, I remember I told you he's got it in the bag.
We thought like first 10 rounds, he's got it.
Yeah, there was no one catching him there. Then he didn't like fall away, but didn't have the same impact goals wise and stuff like that.
I'm glad he got it.
100%.
It was awesome to see him win the Brownlow.
Yeah,
huge credit to him. Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on the podcast, Josh, and good luck with Mornington. And hope to see more winning ways at Mornington.
Yeah, we'll be watching closely.
Oh, we will be.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Anytime. Thank you for coming.